Okay, here's Linda Chase's work, and I took a look at her assignment too, and it seems pretty good. You know, I'm not getting a color match in that area outside of the zone of overlap in the top right. The pink in the top right has a slightly different RGB value than the other areas, but otherwise this is correct and it looks good. Now onto her transparency piece. Well, I'm not seeing transparency, so if you're in Photoshop, be sure to take a look at the top of the layers palette where you can set the opacity. Next, depth. Well, that looks pretty good. The only little thing I'd say there is that the darker shapes toward the top can be behind the ones below, and vibration looks pretty good. Okay, here's Linda Cook's work, and let's see. Well, you know, it's necessary to use the software with regard to assignment 2. I see that you're dealing with transparency. I think I said this due in the drafts as well. Also, let's see. Rectangles were required for assignment 3, and I do see some in, for instance, part 2. I tried to arrange these as best I could. I wasn't sure which was which because of the labeling and the way that they were posted. You know, there's a little bit of a quality of transparency in that image we see on top right, and then we do see a bit of depth in bottom left and bottom right. Well, there's a hint of color vibration, but with color vibration, it's best if you limit your color set to 2 or so. Hi Sheila, I'm taking a look here at your work in first assignment 2. You know, I converted this to grayscale because I think that that center area of overlap looks unnaturally light in value, and grayscale sort of affirmed it. Taking a look then at your transparency piece, that's really pretty nice. There's a funny gesture there. It's almost human-like with arms upraised and outstretched. Down to depth. Well, one trouble we have here is that this is not built entirely of rectangles, and if you were careful in particular, probably you could have figured that out. Vibration looks pretty good. However, you'll get a greater sense of vibration with a limited color set, or if you allow 2 colors to predominate. Okay, here taking a look at Bobby's work in first assignment 2, which looks pretty good, but you know, this interval is very subtle, and I'm just increasing the file size. You know, I think that could have been a little more bold, the change between the colors in areas of overlap. Generally, it's okay. Let's see. Now, in assignment 3, I notice all 3 parts have been updated since drafts, which is really pretty impressive. The overlap areas in transparency are showing a nice sense of color mixing, and there's also the quality of this being a little like a Tinker Toy game. We look down to depth, and I believe that the interval has been made more obvious there between the colors. I wonder about that strong black frame and if it's necessary in that particular piece. And finally, we have vibration, where the bars colored magenta gradually become more and more unruly in their placement, moving a little bit up, a little more down, a little more up, and so on until things are just kind of out of whack. Okay, here's Lindsay's work, and things are looking good. I believe that the assignment 2 shows the theory that we were after, and I can see that Lindsay built her file from scratch. Next, transparency. You know, what a lovely idea, and a careful job of first enabling the warm colors to go under the cool ones and then over them. You know, when I look at this one more time now, I'm thinking maybe there could be more interval between the couple of yellows there if you want to spiff this up for your portfolio. Now we've got the depth piece. Well, you know, I unplaced this file when I was reviewing drafts, and so my draft came in on the late side. But I would say, you know, here, given that we're working with color theory, using some color would be a good idea. For example, you know, we can't see saturated versus desaturated colors. Everything here is fully desaturated in this neutral gray composition, nor can we see the effect of warm colors advancing and cool ones receding. So color would be good, and I almost wonder if you couldn't take one transparent large rectangle of color and lay it over the whole thing and achieve the semblance of that, like a piece of stained glass over the whole thing. Perhaps you know how to adjust the opacity in the layers palette. Looks like you do. Now, if I've got things right, this is the correct vibration piece, and I'm a little at a loss on what you're up to here, because for maximum vibration effect, which is what we're after, we're looking for you know, a couple of colors that were saturated, one cool and one warm, and colors with similar values. So with regard to that, I think your earlier draft with the green and magenta colors was a little stronger. Okay, here is Jess's work, and first her assignment number 2, which looks pretty good. I think she built this file from scratch, which is a project. You know, my only concern is that maybe that center area of overlap is a little on the dark side. I'm just going to try image mode grayscale and see what I come up with in terms of analyzing the value. You know, I think that the interval in terms of values could be a little improved too, so I'm just going to undo that. Now, generally it's a pretty good solution. Just that one matter could use some tinkering with, and you know, even if you use the Photoshop method that was outlined in the PDF, there's always room for adjusting for what the eye sees. Now, you know, next we have assignment 3, and I was trying to get everybody's array of images set up so we had part 1 to the right of assignment 2, but I see I mixed things up. So Jess's transparency is at the bottom left there, and you know, that looks pretty good. I don't remember seeing a draft of that one. My only question there has to do with the green bars looking opaque, and you know, because they look so opaque and all the other horizontals are semi-transparent, it looks like it might be an error. I think because of this symmetry, we can live with this. And by the way, it seems as though Jess did a nice job with guides and the grid there. Okay, now I'm going to back up and take a look at the green piece, which is her depth one. And in this case, the file seems a little fuzzy. Maybe it was low res. Also notice there's a little tiny white stripe at the edge of the file, and that's something to watch out for, because sometimes your files are shown on a black backdrop or a gray one like here. I'd say that this particular piece is unusually simple. We could have had more complexity there, but I believe Jess is trying to make up for that in a curious way here by giving us 2 vibration pieces, which are both kind of nice, and they are bugging my eyes out. I'm going to try image mode grayscale here and just get a load of what's going on values wise. Well, values, we don't have a match for those, and you know, that's when we get the greatest effect, but it can be very hard to find a pair of colors that are warm and cool, both saturated and also same in value.